What's up, everybody? This is Football at the Bar, and we're your host. I'm TA.
And it's G Money. Hey.
And guess what? We're having some fun today, and I'm over here laughing because we got a producer behind the scenes. At some point in time, y'all gonna have an opportunity to meet her, but she's a jokester in herself, and she just had me rolling. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting into the meat and potatoes, the exciting part of the off season. If you can even say there's an exciting part of the off season.
Yes,
so
indeed.
We're going to talk again some more about that. We're going to talk about that throughout the entire off season, about all the intricate things that take place. But before we get there, G Money, what are you drinking on?
Okay, so you know what? Repeat performance. You're having me on the shield dag, bro.
On that
and
shield
I
dag.
am fully Jalala I am wet daddy
already
on this.
Hey, already. And I'm on
so that means it's gonna be funny.
I'm on that Claude Chandelier.
Yeah.
And also before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, hey, I need you to like, download, and subscribe for us. This is ATB Media Network. Stay with us. Continue to stay with us. We're going to be here with you. And we actually have some big news at the end of this show. So please stay tuned. We
Absolutely.
got some big news for all of you. But like I said, we're going to talk about this offseason. So we're going to talk a little bit about the draft. We're going to talk a little bit about free agency. We're also going to talk a little bit about the NFL Combine and as we get ready for the draft. And we're going to bring it all together for you. And this is the stuff that you can expect to get from us as we go throughout the offseason, because there is so much football that takes place in the offseason in terms of preparing for the next season.
Yep.
That we have interesting and compelling
information for
great information,
yeah,
and great interesting shit.
Yeah, I agree.
About.
I agree.
And so as we dive headfirst into all of that, the first thing that I got to talk about.
Go ahead, give it to me.
Talk about
give it to me now.
Well, one is I want to hear what your thoughts are, but I want to hear what are your thoughts on the draft? Like, tell me a little bit about the draft. Who are you excited to see possibly get drafted? Who do you think is going to make some moves? What do you think is going to take place? It's going to be something interesting, a hook for everybody in this upcoming draft.
Okay, so contrary to popular opinion, I would say that Jaden Daniels, because they're really pushing your boy May,
Mickey Mouse May.
Oh my God! Everything that I've seen on ESPN or whatever is
May. He's a stone cold.
Listen, it feels real Mitch Trubisky-like.
Mitch Trubisky-like, yes.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It's not even that he's, let's say, going to be a bad quarterback.
He's not going to be a bust.
But a blind, deaf, mute monk would know that, you know what? If we're not talking about Daniels and what's our boy?
Caleb
Williams.
We talk about them too. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Yes.
But that's the environment that we're in.
Very true.
So I just feel really excited about those two quarterbacks and what they're going to do, because those, to me, are going to be the guys that are going to impact the league, are going to set
at least
a
we
standard.
hope so. I don't
all of them are hopeful.
I don't have a hope that May is going to impact the league. I have a hope that he's going to be able to possibly be able to play in the league, but impact the league. Like, we're going to be talking about 5 years from now, May as being somebody cut from the same cloth as
Mitch Trubisky.
No, not a Mitch Trubisky, but what's our man from Cincinnati? You
talking about Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow or Josh.
He hopes that ends up
or Herbert.
Yeah,
I don't foresee that, but that's the best case scenario in my opinion for him. But the reality is that our man Hoagie, there are a couple of analysts that have had the gravity and the gravitas, the gumption to sit over and keep it real.
Right.
Is that May at best it should be a 4th round draft pick, and that's just real. This isn't coming from me. This is coming from
Other
an expert,
prognosticators, right?
Or it's going to be like I saw a comp to him as an athletic Mason Rudolph, and these are individuals trying to pump him up to be the number 1 quarterback, should be the number 1 pick, and you can write it down and take a picture. This individual does not have the talent to sit over here and be a force multiplier in the NFL. Write it down and take a picture. He does not have it. But you were talking about Jalen. So tell me, what are coming your thought processes on Jalen?
Simply put, I think that he is the most profound talent in college football. Period. End of story. I think when you
he didn't win the Heisman for nothing.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't win the Heisman for nothing.
Right.
So look, when you got a guy who runs how he runs,
Mm-hmm.
but let's just take his physical modalities and put them to the side.
Modalities.
Yeah, look, that was Morehouse. For you. I give you a little Morehouse for you, but it's just about his instincts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when he knows when to move
mm-hmm.
and when not to move. And then that is very apropos to let's say, the best player that we have seen in this league, the guy that I don't like to talk about.
But you love him now.
I don't love him.
You respect him.
I respect him. I respect him. Patrick Mahomes has the perfect, let's say, understanding
mm-hmm.
of time, distance, space, and he understands when it's time to, you know what, I gotta move right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, it's time for me to pass right now. You know what, it's time for me to delay right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the gift of a quarterback being able to, let's say, discern all of those variations
mm-hmm.
within the course of a game
mm-hmm.
is what separates winning from losing.
Mm-hmm.
And he has put that on display. There have been plenty of teams that we saw through this course of this year that have had more, let's say, talent in the skill positions than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
But the differentiator was
a quarterback
Mahomes
could do those special things. And really what it comes down to those intangibles.
Yeah.
They don't have stats to sit over here and calibrate where an individual is in those type of things that you're talking about.
Correct.
And that's the difference between good and great.
Yes.
Those are also the things that I don't believe May has. I don't believe JJ from Michigan.
You're talking about McCarthy?
JJ McCarthy doesn't have.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I don't believe Bo Nix have. He doesn't have those intangibles to sit over here and have a fingertip feel.
And an innate understanding of when it's time to go, when it's time for me to read. And the thing that separates what ultimately be like most of these guys either being Hall of Famers or not is their ability to discern that.
Steve Young had that.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers has that. These are not quarterbacks that have that. And the proof is going to be in the pudding. And it's going to be exciting to see him. So where do you think he ultimately lands in the draft?
We're talking about Jaden Daniels. If I were to guess, I think that if, let's say, dare I say, my team, the Raiders, if the audience wasn't clear that I'm going to be selfish about it, I think that they should move heaven and earth to move into the 2 spot, maybe even the 1 spot. But if I were to guess, he's probably going to go no worse than 3.
No worse than 3.
No worse than 3.
Well, and that would be a travesty if David May went before him.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I agree. Mm-hmm. I think that it would.
He probably won the Heisman again for a particular reason.
Yeah.
Now, what's great about when you say the Raiders is because you got to remember that Antonio Pierce actually worked on the Arizona State staff when he was a quarterback initially out of high school.
Correct. They have a relationship.
So they have a relationship. And
it's
so
a perfect
we
scenario.
know it's a perfect scenario. We know Antonio Pierce has a lot of respect for him.
Duh.
Had the opportunity to watch his meteoric growth that he had in his college career and in his transition.
Yeah, because he was at Arizona State when he was at Arizona State.
And a lot of people sit over here and transfer from one school to the next, and they kind of drop down, or they kind of do it horizontally. So, it's a like for like. So they go from one school to another school, but there's no increase or there's no decrease. Mm-hmm. What he did is he went from Arizona State in the Pac-12 and jumped to the SEC. He jumped to the SEC
to legitimize himself
after they won the championship. After Burrow left and sat over here, and that was a team that was in rebuild mode, and he played on a whole nother level. Another intangible that he has is toughness, because the one thing that he's never going to be misconstrued of is that big prototype quarterback. That's what they kind of say David May should be number one, is because he's that prototypical quarterback that's 6'3" plus, 200 and something pounds.
Correct.
Plus, and that just because his height and weight means that he should be number one, that's absolutely
and his physical intangibles. So,
but let me just quickly finish. Is that the twist is that his toughness. This was a dude who's light in the booty. I mean, he weighs what you weighed in high school, and he's sitting over here, dropping his head down and running through players to get that first down. And that's that heart. That's what no statistical category can sit over here and really comprise and really flesh out.
Correct.
Either you see it and you see he's something special because he can do that when there are no statistical categories that will acknowledge that, or he doesn't. And that's what makes him special, is even though he's light in the booty, even though he's not the biggest, he's not the tallest, he's not the strongest, he's not the heaviest. What he is he has an abundance of heart. So I would love to see him with the Raiders. And so when you match a quarterback who has an abundance of heart with a coach that has abundance of heart, and allow that symbiotic relationship to work itself out.
Correct.
And he's going to be able to get the best out of him.
Listen, and then let's not negate the obvious. Devontae Adams plays for the Las Vegas Raiders.
He has weapons. He would have weapons. He would have weapons.
And I won't go through the names because I know you don't want me to go Raider heavy. But I would just say
you have Adams. You have what's the wide receiver from the Patriots? Your number two, who's nice.
I know.
If you don't know your number two wide receiver, you can't say yourself as a Raiders fan anymore.
No.
It's the cocktails.
He's drunkenness. But
Myers.
Yes, Jacoby
Myers. And then you have a nice tight end that you just got from last year's draft.
Yeah, Mayer.
So there is unequivocally some tools there. You get one more, and then you're rock solid.
I literally believe that if you insert a young, capable quarterback into the Raiders equation, and then you go heavy defense in the draft.
But the defense showed tremendous steps. I mean, they weren't where you would. They're not Kansas City's defense, but this is defense that showed improvements. Like you said, you just add a few more components.
Correct. So the only thing that you're really doing is you're talking about let us create depth within our defense, genuine depth, and if we have the quarterback that can shock and awe, then we can shock and awe.
So are you completely out on Aidan O'Connell? Or, I liked him. He was a monster in preseason. In regular season, he had some good times. He had some good spats. He had some challenging spats. And so what Pierce says, even if we're with Aidan O'Connell next year, what will he be after a year in the league, a full off season where he's the man? Like, do you believe that?
I think that the only thing that you can say about Aiden O'Connell is that he cares about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that means something.
Yeah, it does mean something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if I'm Aiden O'Connell, I just need to realize that, you know what, my, let's say, impediment is that I held the ball too long, and then I put my team in harm's way, and I was too fixated on trying to understand what was going on in front of me, and then I might have fumbled the ball a couple of two or three times where I shouldn't have. So ball security is the key to quarterback success. If you are not able to, or let's say, if you are a individual who doesn't turn the ball over, then I will not hurt my team. So
is he an individual that's going to hurt your team?
He is how he is presently constructed.
Okay.
But
so you need a new one.
I need a new one.
Okay.
I need a new one.
He's a great backup.
And he could be a phenomenal backup, but
make a living.
But if I'm Aiden O'Connell, maybe I'm not satisfied with that. Maybe I'm going to dedicate myself to figure out all of the flaws that I did through the course of the year, and maybe I come out better.
But that's something that can't be quantified. It just has something to do with, what does he choose to do with this offseason?
Yes. The offseason, this particular offseason for Aiden O'Connell
is a make or break.
Is big. Mm-hmm. This is whether or not you're going to be an also-ran, a backup, or are you going to step up fully into, no, I'm the Raiders quarterback. I'm the guy you want to see.
Well, the hope for the Raiders is that, one, they make a big push for Jaden. Number two, they make a push for Justin Fields. Or number three is that he does what they hope that he should and can do. And it will only be based on him in terms of how great he grows.
The only number three, if I were the Raiders, would be to say, okay, Russell Wilson is about to come to me.
I would roll with Aidan over Russell.
I would
only because he's younger. Give him the ability to get the reps in and to learn. Because he wasn't egregious. If he was egregious, just get him up out of here. He wasn't egregious.
I agree, but when you have to say is that when I have a Super Bowl winning quarterback who essentially is being discarded by one of my rivals,
is he still a Super Bowl winning quarterback?
That's the $1 million question.
And we have to believe what we've seen for the past 3-4 years is he's probably not a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but he might be the quarterback to get you to the playoffs.
And that's all we really want, because the Raiders are built right now off of two things. They need to establish their running game. Mm-hmm. They need to have,
and we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. Yeah.
And they need to have a more dynamic offense, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I think the Raiders have made a decision, especially in light of the fact that they hired the coach that they hired, that they have now made a decision to say, we're going to be the juggernaut on defense. Correct. We're going to be defense,
and that's a perfect team for Russ. Now, there are two things with Russ. Number one is Russ has the experience of playing in the AFC West.
Correct.
Going against the Chiefs.
Agreed.
And it has been the only quarterback for the Broncos to have beat the Chiefs. And so that's important, understanding the dynamics of this division and understanding
and the passion
but how it is to play against Patrick Mahomes. Of
course.
And when you couple that with Pierce's ability to have already rattled, they can mess around and win 2 games.
Yes,
and which is the catalyst to them getting into the playoffs and getting into the tournament. And number two is he gets to play against a team that let him down, that sat over here and discarded him like a piece of shit, and that he wasn't worth anything when he played better than that. He didn't play phenomenal, but he played better than how they're treating him. because there are a whole lot of players that have played worse than him that aren't getting treated like this from his team. They also aren't making $39 million a year. But hey, when we look, everybody loves to throw in Russ's salary in terms of what he is and compare that to him as a justification of how he's been treated. But it's so funny. Daniel Jones is making $40,000 this year, and he's one of the most egregious quarterbacks. So
Yep.
that doesn't that doesn't sit well with me as a true justification.
Yeah, no, I almost feel like I want a hip hop song. I want to be like, yep. Yeah, no, it is that. Daniel Jones is terrible.
Yes.
We focus on too much on Wilson.
But the reason why is because he's married to Sierra and he is a Super Bowl previous quarterback.
He's a name.
He's a name. He justifiably he's a name. But just keeping on the theme of like what's going to happen, what's going to be on the back end of all of this, the draft, the combine, the free agency. One of the things that I want to address, I want to talk about, and this kind of piggybacks off of what we talked about last week, is the Bears' number 1 pick. And when you look at the Bears' number 1 pick, everybody's saying, "Oh, Caleb Williams is a generational player," and I talked wholeheartedly last week about that moniker of a generational player. We've seen all these quote unquote generational players that never live up to that moniker, to that thought process of them being a generational player. And and for that plus many more, which I articulated last week, I think it would behoove the Bears. I think this is when you have to make a big boy decision. I think you have to be comfortable being a contrarian and going against the grain. Everybody is saying go get Caleb Williams. And if I was the GM, if I was in Poles, who's the general manager of the Bears, if I was in Ryan Poles' position, I would sit over here and I would keep Fields.
I agree.
Not because of how great Fields is, even though I do believe he is a very good player. But I would do it because of what the compensation you could get. And I want you to follow me here. The Commanders, the Washington Commanders, hired an offensive coordinator that worked with Caleb Williams.
Right.
So obviously they were angling to get Caleb. So we know we have a built-in easy trade partner with the number 2. And then, so you could easily flip from 1 to 2, give them Caleb Williams, and then you get a switch. You get the number 2 draft pick, plus you get next year's draft pick. Now, what Ryan Poles did extremely smart last year was get a player. So you could grab a player off of the Washington Commanders, be it if it's one of their very best defensive players,
right,
or
one of
McLaurin, or it's McLaurin.
You're right.
So now you have DJ Moore and McLaurin with Fields.
Correct.
Different ball game, right? So you could sit over here and make that pick. Now, here's what people forget: they never go to the 2nd and 3rd level of the deal. Just like you said, the Raiders are itching to get up.
Correct.
Also, the Patriots,
even if that deal, let's say, were to transpire, the Raiders should still.
But watch this. The Patriots probably they're not a Jalen type of organization to get that.
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, not Jalen. Jaden Daniels. So, but a Drake May probably fits right in their wheelhouse. So you sit over here and you trade. And make a trade with New England to go from 3 to 2.
Now
to get Drake May.
It's going to be very interesting to see if you're going to be like Negradamus on this.
Right. Yeah, unequivocally. I'm working that. So, but even if they choose not to do it, there is another team out there out of the other 31 that think Drake May. They've been listening to all the clown cars out there. They're saying Drake May needs to be, if he's not number 2, he should be number 1, and would sit over here and trade a Minnesota. There are teams out there that will, in Atlanta here that likes Drake May that would trade up to get to that number 2 spot to get Drake May.
So so all of this is predicated on how they value Drake May. So it's very interesting to see that Drake May in the, let's say, in the combine, he's going to pass, right? So you have Jaden Daniels is saying, I'm not going to because my film is my film.
You're putting the cart before the horse. Don't sit over here and spoil the deal. Let's keep it on this trade. Because what I'm saying is that the trade outside of the one isn't a one-legged trade.
No.
It's a multi-legged trade, right? So I want you to put all of this together because you can trade 1 to 2 and not just get an extra 1 for next year, an extra first-round pick for next year, but you can also get a player. Because who is not, if you covet
now, you said McLaren. So if I were the, let's say, Washington Commanders, I don't know if I'm going to give you my absolute best.
But McLaren hasn't played well for the last 2 or 3 years. He has not played at the level that he actually is. So when it comes down to having to pay him, they might. But it could be a defensive player. Forget about who it is. But what I'm saying is a legitimate reason. Who is the player that you covet? When you have the number 1 pick, just like Charlotte or just like the Panthers were willing to give up a player that the Bears needed, so will Washington. Whether it's on the defensive side or it's on the offensive side, there's a player that you can pick up that can make an instant impact. So not only are you picking up an additional first round for next year, you're also picking up a player that'll make an impact this year.
Right. I think you're on the right path. I just don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know.
Washington unequivocally, they hired the OC specifically for this player. So when Washington made the choice of we're going to go all in for Caleb or we're going to try to, because we hired this OC that was his OC in college, then you have to believe that they're active. And so with that being said is if you can get that generational player, because people believe Caleb is a generational player. I've made the argument that he probably isn't. But if they believe he is, why not let them do it? Why not maximize what you can get? So now you you just don't drop down a little bit. You also get a player for now that you know will fit for you and fit within your scheme, whether defensive or offensive. And then you trade that second player, but then you trade that second pick again for somebody else who's more needy. So now you've fallen back in the draft, but you have 2 picks within the top 10 to 15 in the NFL. Or in the NFL draft, you have 2 early round picks, 2 franchise early picks, but you've also gotten 2 more additional picks for next year. Plus, you've gotten 2 players that can fit in your scheme this year.
Well, if I'm the Bears, I love the scenario.
So 2 players that'll play for you this year, plus 2 additional first round picks for next year. So now you go into 2025 draft with minimum of 3 first round picks next year, all by doing this, and then you surrounded this quarterback.
They need to build their coffers. So whether or not that they believe in Justin Fields as, like, let's say they don't do any of that. The whole point is that they need to be able to establish skill position around whatever quarterback they decide to believe in.
And my point is you can't do that if you take Caleb Williams in the first round with the number 1 pick. Number 2 is if you look at the stats in the past 20 games, Justin Fields' stats are just below. Who do you think?
What, you going to say Patrick Mahomes? Is that what you're going to say?
No.
Oh, okay.
That would be doing.
Okay.
He's just below my man from Baltimore.
Oh, Lamar Jackson.
He's just below. I'm talking about within the sphere of Lamar Jackson in the past 20 games. I'm talking about within.
Got it.
Several dozen yards, several dozen. A percentage point or so 1 or 2.
If I am the Chicago Bears, what I'm really saying to myself is, okay, what do I need to do to equip myself to make sure that Justin Fields now can play on let's say a Lamar Jackson level?
That's the crux. Now here's our twist: is all of this only makes sense If you sit over and go to Justin Fields and say, I'm going to get the 3 best quarterback coaches in your offseason, and you have to do two-week sessions with each, which means Justin Fields has to give up a grand total of 12 weeks of his offseason just working on his game. Now, you remember, these specialized quarterback coaches specialize in specific things. Some specialize in footwork. Some specialize in mechanics.
And timing.
Some specialize in how you read defenses, and you're sitting over here and looking at video. But if you get the very 3 best and you say, hey, I'm going to keep you. I'm going to do all of this for you. But this is what you got to do for me. You got to commit to 12 weeks of your off season with the 3 very best individuals that are quarterback coaches. And we're
I'm
going to
give you the best guys around
you. So you do that. So guess what happens is when you get to their picks in 9th and whatever, now we're not going to get the number 1 wide receiver. We're probably not going to get the number 2 wide receiver. But you get the 3rd or 4th best wide receiver in this draft, coupled with the wide receiver that you got from one of those 2 trades. Plus, you already have more. So now you have the best trio of young wide receivers in the league. You have a quarterback that's committed to 12 weeks of intense training with the 3 very best quarterback trainers in the entire. You understand what I'm saying? And this is how you sit over here. And what happens is you look up, and in 2024 they make the playoffs. Write down and take a picture.
Right.
And you don't pay them a big contract. You give them a contract like how my man from Green Bay got.
I get it.
Kind of like a prove it. I'm going to pay you, but I ain't going to pay you big. I'm going to give you $20 million, but guess what? If you hit these escalators, you could get 30 and over the next year. And if you crush it this year, then guess what? Next year, we're going to sit over here and really pay you.
The very big deal that you are articulating, which I think you did it perfectly. Because if I was a Bears GM, I would be like, man, I need to hire this guy because look, he broke it down.
If he was smart.
He broke it down for me. But I think that the thing that I think most owners were going to really, like, let's say, fixate on is I have to pay my quarterback the most money.
But he don't. You don't got to pay him yet. And that's a proverbial carrot to take 12 weeks of your off season to fucking get right. Because if you do that, we're going to pay you $60 million a year 2 years from now.
So, but then the magical question is, if I don't do that and I just say I'm going to accelerate all of the benefits that I'm going to put around said quarterback, I need basically to win the Super Bowl. I think that most of these owners are going to feel this way. If I am going to, let's say, maintain with the contract that Justin Fields has, I'm going to maintain and I'm going to accelerate the talent around him, then that what I'm really saying is I need to win the Super Bowl within the next 2 to 3 years. And if I don't believe that I am going to do that, then I need to cut bait.
But here's what twist is. This is where the challenge with my thought process with that is, number one is it's not about winning the Super Bowl. It's about competing. And those are 2 different things.
Okay.
What you have if you do that is you create a team that you can go to the playoffs this year. Next year, in 2025, you have a team that you can compete to win the Super Bowl, which means that you have the talent on your team to actually get to the championship. Think of the Detroit Lions. They would become the new Detroit Lions in 2025.
But guess what? The Detroit Lions are still there.
But right. But whose team is better? When you talk about Moore, McLaurin, and another fucking top 4 wide receiver out of this unbelievable wide receiver draft, don't forget what their defense was. Their defense was the number 1 defense in the NFL in the final 6 games.
You're right, and however, that is still a Russian roulette roll. It is.
Well, which Russian roulette do you want? The one where you have one shot with Caleb, or you have 5 shots because you were able to trade get extra picks for next year. Imagine 3 first-rounders, plus you got players, their best players from this year. You understand what I'm saying? So which Russian roulette do you want? Which one do you have more chance to survive in? If they get Caleb now, the one thing I can promise you is they don't make the playoffs next year. They're lucky to make the playoffs in 2025. If they do what I'm saying is they're for sure to make the playoffs next year, and in 2025 they're competing for an NFC championship.
You feel so passionate about it. I'm like, well, let's go. What do we need to do? Okay. Discussion ended.
Caleb is not a for sure thing. And that's
no, he's not. What he is he's going to be cheap, and he's going to be cheap by comparison to quarterbacks for at least 3 years. So anybody that you draft out of this particular draft, what the owner is and / GM is really thinking about is, I'm going to have a guy that is going to be on the relative cheap.
You don't
for
have
3
to do
years.
that. You know why? How much did the draft go? How much did the salary cap go up this year?
That's a good question.
$30 million per team. Guess what? They already had $60 million in the kitty. So that gave them just under $90 million available. So we don't need to worry about that because you're not signing Justin Fields this year to the 50 or 60. You make him play. You give him the proverbial carrot to play for that 50 or 60 2 years from now when it's going up another 60 million because it's going to go up 30 million a year. You follow what I'm saying?
I do.
So you have the opportunity to sit over here and keep a player that you got to remember, this man was mentioned in the MVP race last year. Not in 2023, in 2022. 2023, he got hurt. He hurt his thumb. He was out. But we saw unbelievable play from him last year.
Yes, we did.
And so when you talk about an MVP, he was in the MVP very lightly. MVP discussion in 2022. 2023, he got hurt, but he did some absolutely spectacular things with Moore and Mooney.
Yes.
Give him Moore, McLaurin, the third or fourth best wide receiver, Kimmett, and that defense is already cracking.
I know.
And you add 2 additional first-round picks in 2025.
Well, look, man, you ain't got to sell me about a good
time. This is why they should hire me.
And this is why you're so passionate about it. But, okay, here's what I would just say to just sum up that particular nuance, right? I would just simply say that I think that you're on the right path. I think that is something that the Bears should seriously consider. But I'm going to pivot to something that I think is a little bit more, let's say, interesting to me. Dare I say it. But it's more like the running back for the Dallas Cowboys. What are the Dallas Cowboys going to do with the running game? Now,
shame on you for wanting to sit over and talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
I can't even believe it either.
When you're a Raiders fan. What you're saying is like, let's transition from the draft to free agency. And again, free agency affects the draft. So what you're saying is extremely important.
Because you know what? You talked about the top of the draft, and I think that there's a lot of play. There's a lot of nuance that the Chicago Bears are going to have to really deal with. Who knows? They might decide to send Justin Fields to the Raiders,
which is a possibility, or
that
the
is
Falcons,
a real possibility,
or the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Correct. Those are all real possibilities, or they're going to go down the path that you just articulated, and those are really what's going to be interesting to see to watch. But to me, the interesting thing about the week, since we don't have games to play, I'm like, well, what the hell are the dumpster trash, just confusion of the Dallas Cowboys, but they're still the most popular team? What the hell are they going to do at running back? So now I'm like, okay, are they going to sign Pollard?
If they can sign any of the free agents, If they just said we're gonna,
Blank slate, right?
It's 6, 7 quality free agent running backs out there because running backs are disrespected for whatever reason in the league. But there's a ton of quality, old school quality
Free
that you
agents.
can get a year or
Yes,
two
sir.
out of, and you got to pay them $10 million each a year. If you had the pick, which running back would you pick?
If I were the Dallas Cowboys, I would sign Derrick Henry first.
So Derrick Henry, you think? See, my problem with Derrick Henry is if you don't have a compliment with him, then I think you hamstring. So if you're willing to sign Derrick Henry for 10, and you're willing to give who was the running back there last year that just coming off injury that's a free agent
Pollard.
now? You sign Pollard to a $8 million contract. Now you have $18 million running back. But if you couple that with the offensive weapons that you have with Lamb, with Brandon Cooks,
correct,
with
their
the other wide receiver Ferguson,
they have a good tight end,
and with the unequivocally, and with the third wide receiver that came off a knee injury. That didn't come back as well as he thought. I can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name, but it's okay.
And with Dak, and if you do that, but see,
Dak is the key.
But what's it called? Isn't that great if he's a thunder and lightning guy? You need both. Derrick Henry, he's thunder. You need a lightning like a Pollard to go with him.
But so the number one thing that I would say that it was like an impediment for the Dallas Cowboys offense. It wasn't about their ability to score. I think that they have proven that they have an ability to score. It's just when you get in the red zone and you need to, let's say, go heavy. You need to go heavy formation, and you need a batter ram, and they don't have Ezekiel Elliott anymore. And that was what was apparent in their year this year. They need to get a batter ram, but why don't we upgrade our batter ram?
I think you can get a batter ram that has a more diverse skill set. And don't think I'm hating on my man. I love him, but I actually think a Saquon who can batter ram and can do some stuff out the backfield.
That's very sexy.
Would be the most advantageous to me, and it would be sexy. And Jerry Jones loves sexy.
Well, and he's a showman, right? But I don't disagree with that either. I just think that it's going to come down to, if I were the Dallas Cowboys, it's going to be Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Pollard, that we're going to have to find a way to sign both of them.
It needs to be two of the three.
Or we're going to just say, the hell with it. Let's just steal Saquon Barkley from the Giants and make it a party, because what they ultimately need and what they have lacked, let's say, for the fourscore and a million years, it's not about their ability to get to the playoffs. It's about their ability to win. People have figured out their schemes, and they don't have the proverbial Emmitt Smith scenario, which was if Emmitt Smith just had a bunch of big offensive linemen and he found a way to squeak through the cracks, and he could beat a proverbial linebacker and safety.
And Saquon can do
that. But Henry can do that in spades.
No, not in spades.
Yes, because he's such a physical presence. So
he's getting older. He's taking a beating.
But that's precisely why
we saw him slow down.
But that's precisely why they would need to re-sign Pollard.
But with Saquon, Saquon, you can bring Saquon in,
and he could do it all.
That's what I love about Saquon. Saquon is an $8,000 discount overall.
I just don't think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to want to pony up that amount of cash.
But it's not that amount. It's the same amount for Saquon or oh boy.
Possibly.
It's $10 million. They're not paying more than $10 million. And $10 million is being generous.
Yeah, no, because most of these guys are asking for 13 to 15.
But they didn't get 13 to 15 with a team that they actually did it for. How are they going to sit over and get 13 to 15 for a team that we're hoping another year later that they can do it? After coming off of down years. Saquon had a down year. Our man from Tennessee had a down year.
Yeah.
So my thought process is it's 10 is a cap. Which one of those two you want to pay 10 to? If you pay 10 to our man from Tennessee, guess what? You got to pay 8 to Pollard.
That means you got to go heavy in the draft. You got to get real creative.
Or you can get somebody in the draft. But are you really trusting when you got to win a championship? Are you really trusting a rookie?
No, but what you're really saying is that I'm trusting Henry. So what you're saying is we tried to do the finesse back.
That doesn't work.
And it didn't work.
But are you
even though we made it to the playoffs?
If you go Saquon, if you go Saquon, you could not go finesse. You could get a Saquon light in the draft.
But he's injury prone.
In the 4th and 5th round. And that's a great running back tandem. Because a Saquon light could go in there and gangbang for a couple of games.
I feel you.
With my man who's the coach's son.
Yes.
That's up in there that could hold the fort till Saquon got better, right? If Saquon got hurt. If you draft him or if you trade or if you bring in Henry on the free agency.
What you're doing is you're just saying I'm bringing in a sledgehammer.
You bring in a sledgehammer, but you have to my man who's a coach's son, that isn't a great enough 1-2 punch. You have to bring in somebody else. Now, what you're doing is you're having to bring in somebody that's not a Derrick Henry.
So what would you do?
What I would do is bring in Saquon. I would look at somebody who's Saquon light, who can do a little bit of everything.
Okay.
To just have to fill in for a game or 2 or 3 if Saquon got hurt, and roll with the dude who was the dude's son, who was this tall, but he was effective. And that would be my tandem, because now you have 2 cheap running backs plus Saquon at 10 million. So now you're over here and you're at 13, 14 million out of your running back squad, but you're completely covered.
Yes. The only other caveat that I would say, and I have to say this objectively, even though I hope that this does not occur, is if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I would give a serious look at Josh Jacobs. If I'm the Dallas Cowboys, because Josh Jacobs is a guy like Saquon Barkley in that he can hammer you if you give him a good offensive line. He has proven that he can catch the ball out of the backfield, very similar to Saquon Barkley. He's probably going to be a player to where you can pay him a hair less than Saquon Barkley, but that's only
is that hair worth having a Saquon Barkley light? If you can get a Saquon Barkley light in the 4th or 5th round, third to 5th round,
and trust me, I don't want the Cowboys to get Josh Jacobs.
Why don't Josh Jacobs stay with the Raiders with his broken down 1,200 touches in his NFL career, and he's beat down, rather than bring him to the Cowboys?
You think he's more beat down than Saquon Barkley?
Well, what I think is Saquon Barkley ran harder than him last year. And
last year.
But here's what happens. Sure. When you run so hard to sit over here on a contract year to get the contract and then you don't, we saw the effects of that. It might not even be that he's broken down. It could be you let the wind out of the sails. You understand? And he just didn't have the oomph because he gave all his oomph to get paid and then couldn't even get paid. And so how much oomph how do you recapture that oomph to give it again?
Yeah.
You can't bet on that on a team that role is so important for the team. We know Saquon.
Saquon can
still deliver.
And we know that Jerry Jones is fixated on before I die.
Correct. So
I need a Super Bowl.
So don't bring in, I would rather see him stay with the Raiders or go with another team like hold on, think of the Jacksonville Jaguars and have him be a tandem with my man. What's the running back that's already
ETN
there? ETN, and now that's powerful.
That would be scary,
right? That would be scary. You understand? So you have a team that thought they had a generational quarterback and found out they don't, and need to more rely.
I know. Golden mullet is still my guy, though.
And guess what? He has a mullet, so you know he's stone cold. And so when you put those two together, to literally fortify and help Golden mullet, I think that would be a greater fit than to sit over and bring him to the Cowboys, to where you would have to sit over and more rely on him solo bolo, and we wouldn't want to do that. We know we can rely on. Imagine Saquon with a good offensive line, a decent offensive line.
Yeah, not even
a nice day.
Yeah, just have like some good guards who can move people out of the way.
Man, let's go.
Oh man.
So that's why I'm excited about the possibility that you brought up of Saquon going to the Cowboys. That, in my opinion, is GMing at the highest levels. Yeah. But unfortunately, these GMs think they're smart and don't have the ability to really think outside the box.
Well, I think that sometimes it's paralysis by analysis. They overanalyze things, and it's like the answer is hiding in plain sight. Like
it's hiding in plain sight. Or you have Jimmy Jones. I'm a billionaire, and I'm the GM, and I feel because I'm a billionaire, I'm smarter than everybody else. And really, motherfucker, the game is past you by and you're old. You need to pass the buck. But so the thought process is, I think you hit it on the head. You said it either or, and you were leaning towards Derrick Henry. But I think Derrick Henry is a perfect fit for Baltimore, because they run downhill. They have the offensive line for it. They have a scheme that will allow him just to lumber through.
And you know
think of what was the running back that was there last year? Can't think of his name. One, not the one that got hurt.
It was Edwards.
Edwards.
Yeah.
Think of Edwards on steroids.
Correct.
And you put that man there.
That's interesting when you say that. But the reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, Derrick Henry is 6'3", and he's damn near 260, 270 pounds. So he has played in an offense through his entire career to where his quarterback was, let's say, above average. But above average is not good. It just means he was above average. And he played, and he did not have superior skill positions around him.
Correct.
He did not have a superior defense. And the Cowboys, much like the Raiders and other companies within the organization of this NFL league, are really trying to maximize other divisions. Meaning, I'm going to make sure that I have
you need more with him. That's one problem with Derrick Henry. You need a compliment with him.
But can you imagine a scenario, a walk of life to where the turnover happy Cowboys defense has a guy who can eat up clock.
That would be nice.
And who can pound the rock and basically force other teams into submission. So if they get 1 to 2 turnovers where they average somewhere around 3.
If Saquon went to someplace else,
1 to 2.
If Saquon went someplace else, then the next deal is Derrick Henry, but I'm not hating. I'm just saying Saquon needs to be number one.
Saquon could do the deal more because Saquon is very similar to McCaffrey in that he is a guy who has that physical ability.
Ding, ding, ding. If the Cowboys were smart, they would be able to foresee that Saquon is cut from the same cloth
as McCaffrey.
Yes. And where Derrick Henry, that's why you need a second person.
And then you'll win games by, let's say, 20 points instead of 10.
Correct. Yes.
And you know what, Jerry Jones, you might want to think about that.
You might want to.
You might want to.
But let's talk about the draft real quick.
Go ahead. Go to the draft.
Because we've been long-winded and we really dove into all of these deals. But the draft really is a crux of what's going to change these teams. And it's a lot of shenanigans that go in to on both sides, the players and the media, in terms of how individuals are depicted, how what perspective or lens we see players through. And so kind of the big noise going into, because the draft is going to happen later on this week, or excuse me, the combine combine is going to happen later on this week. And so we have probably, in our opinions, the two very best quarterbacks, Caleb and Jaden.
Jaden, I think, is the best player.
Not throwing.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the Drakes. We're looking at the JJ.
Bo Nix.
The Bo Nix. The Mickeys, in my opinion. The Mickeys with the big ears. Those are the ones that are throwing. So what are kind of your thought process on a player? Like this, do you look down? Do you frown upon a player that has the audacity, that chooses not to throw or participate in the drills of the combine?
Absolutely not. And the reason is because the combine is a pageantry show.
I wouldn't go that far, but okay.
It is essentially, hey, how long and how far can I throw the ball?
I think pro days are like that.
I commingle both of them.
One is controlled. One is you have your people around you, and the other one is you have to sit over and perform with people that you might not have ever played with.
So what?
And you don't control; they control.
What you're articulating to me is: do I have to throw a number on me and then? Hey,
throw me out there and let's
throw me out there, and then you're going to measure my stats. And then there is, you come to my school, let me throw to my guys,
correct,
and then you judge that.
And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to throw and what are the routes that I'm going to throw to, and so on and so forth.
And then you make an assessment on that. But if any GM is worth their weight in gold, they're really going to be looking at the film, because the film is, what did this guy do in live action?
Without a doubt.
Period. End of story. So what I think that it was very poignant about Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams not participating or making a decision, they have just said, I have put enough film on there that if you don't think that I'm the guy,
then I ain't for you.
Yeah, I ain't for you.
Have a nice
you're
day.
An idiot and church on the move.
It's all right.
And that's okay. And you know what? I'm not mad at them one iota, because they have put film out there against the highest levels of competition in the league for 2 seasons. So why do I need to do the quote unquote dog and pony show for you to say, oh yeah, my arm, I do have a lot of velocity on my arm. No, I don't need to do that for you. You need to realize also from the historical context of how draft picks have spun out through the course of the years. The guys who are most prominent, Lamar Jackson. End of the road. What did we talk about? Patrick Mahomes. They weren't the number 1 and 2 slots. So guess what? I don't have to do this.
I think that's where the opportunity lies for these players. I think we have to remember that the hit rate on number 1 drafted into quarterbacks is low.
Yeah, I think the last one might have been Peyton Manning. That was
no, it wasn't Peyton Manning.
Who was it?
Let's talk about Andrew Luck.
Okay, Andrew Luck, but Andrew Luck retired early.
And he retired early, and he wasn't really that great as a player in the NFL.
You know what?
He was very good. He wasn't great. And some players get the opportunity to get the benefit of the doubt and kind of get ballyhooed. But you're right. But when we all look at it with sober eyes, They weren't actually that great. But at the end of the day, is I think what we find is that the greatest concentration of greatness comes from the middle round, or not the middle rounds, but the middle of the first round. Because those are usually teams that are better and quarterbacks
have more
that are
around them.
well, yes. Right, and quarterbacks that are picked early are traditionally picked on absolutely egregious teams that don't have the people behind, around them, the players around them. They don't have the leadership in terms of management to sit over here and really accentuate and get them to the next level. So what traditionally happens is the middle round quarterbacks are best. So these are the individuals that actually are going to be performing at this combine. And my question for you is forget about the big three. What is one middle round quarterback that you have your eye on that you believe could be somebody special 2-3 years from now because they're with a team that's on the ascension and they have all of the apparatuses around them, to help them achieve?
Okay, so I think I want to say the Washington quarterback. Was it Penix?
Okay, Penix, yeah. That would be my choice as well.
If I were to pick a guy, he's very injury prone, mind you.
No, he's been injured. You got to remember, he just finished his entire season, wasn't injured at all. He's had some tough injuries. It doesn't mean he's injury prone.
Now look at
Let's not put the prone narrative on this man.
All right. So honorable mention. He's not injury prone, but he has been injured.
Yes.
I actually think that he's an individual to where if you put him in the right circumstance, he could be a Hall of Fame quarterback.
I agree. Because he throws that rock.
And he has, dare I say, Patrick Mahomes-like tendencies. Meaning
he does. Yes. Yes. He
has all the physical modalities. Mm-hmm. He can run. Mm-hmm. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's fast. Mm-hmm. He's not slow.
No.
He knows how to avoid things. He knows how to read defenses. Mm-hmm. He knows how to deliver the ball. It's very interesting. Now, there are other guys, like dare I say, I like Bo Nix out of Oregon.
See, I don't. Just Bo Nix.
I actually do like it.
You can't go 3 years and shit the bed. You can't go 3 years and look like a stone cold mystery, and then you transfer and get with a team that has all the talent to surround you, and then you still lose the Penix 3 times in the season.
Well, okay.
And say, oh, this dude's good. This dude, and the media says this dude's better than Penix. I don't even understand how you make that math.
Yeah.
But okay.
Here is always the rub when it comes to college football. It's about, even though we always compare quarterback to quarterback, but it's really quarterback to defense. So how did you, let's say, perform against said defense?
If Oregon was a team that was in, at best case scenario, the bottom top 25, then that argument church. Like, Bo Nix played on a team that was inferior to Washington, and so that was a justification for Penix and Washington to get in that ass. But when they were both top 10 teams, top 5 teams,
you already heard me say
it in NCAA. I don't got no. You don't have no excuse to catch that ass whooping.
Yeah, you already heard me say it. I would pick Penix because I think that he has let's say done more with less.
Who? Penix. I wouldn't say that. No, because Penix's offensive weapons were monstrous. His offensive line. He has 2 people on the offense that are top 15 players. So I'm not going to give Penix any kudos.
I'm not saying.
What I'm saying is that Oregon was good. Washington
and
was
Washington
good.
was also good.
Let's give Penix a little bit slight edge in terms of weapons. Sure. But again,
but it's
Bo Nix,
slight.
we have a history. Just like we talk about Penix's history of injuries, we got to talk about Bo Nix's history of being a stone cold mystery at Auburn. Okay. We have to sit over here and acknowledge he was a stone cold, and this dude's almost a grandpa. I mean, this dude's a fifth year. This dude's an old motherfucker.
But you also have to also acknowledge is that most GMs are going to say when he was terrible, he went to Oregon and then he evolved. So then what they're going to say is,
but Penix did the same thing. He left the team and evolved too. The only difference is he evolved to a team that performed at a greater level and got to the playoffs and performed at a higher level than Bo Nix. So that's why when all my own question is when we talk about these two players, they're very similar. To put Bo Nix over Penix,
no, I already said I didn't.
You didn't, but everybody else in the lexicon says Bo Nix is higher than Penix, even though Penix performed higher than him. And their excuse for that is Penix got injured previously. So that's a justification of we put a mediocre, at best, a hardcore cement ceiling Bo Nix above. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm never going to allow that to happen.
I see you and your feelings about it too.
It's just all trickery that we have to sit over here and not be a part of that ecosystem.
This is the funny thing about football. They do this every year.
Every year.
They put us through this every year.
Every year.
And there is going to be the guys that they fall in love with, right? But what I think you and I are tasked to do is just say, you know what? Damn what all of the popular pundits say, this is the guy you need to pay attention to. And I would just say, Penix is a guy you need to pay attention to.
You know why we got to do that? Because guess what? We're going to be here 5 years from now when I can say, didn't I tell you? That's why.
Yes.
Didn't I tell you he was a stone cold? Didn't I tell you Bo Nix was never going to be anybody and he really should just be in the UFL anyway?
Right.
That's why we do it.
Well, and I concur. It's just par for the course at this point. It's just like this is what the engine of football, bad, good, bad, or indifferent. This is what they do, and this is us having to respond to it and give people a real genuine context, because most people just listen to ESPN and whatever little outlets that they want to listen to, and they don't understand, like, unless you're like a diehard, you're watching all of this, it's like you don't understand.
And guess what? That's exactly what you do.
I don't like you, but okay.
But you know what? You mentioned something that was very interesting.
What do you mean about me contouring the?
No. Is this about just how we look at this overall?
Oh yeah, how we look at football overall.
Overall, and you know what? And that wasn't what was important to me. What was important to me is that what the reality is I've had the opportunity to sit down across from you for an entire season. And I tell you, I couldn't have had a better co-host.
Oh man. You know what? Don't make me cry.
I'm about to get emotional in this motherfucker. I couldn't have had the opportunity to sit over here and have an individual to start this chain of events that we call At the Bar. Football at the bar. NBA at the bar. And I will tell you, it's heavy on my heart that life is what it is. Because the reality is shit happens in a given year, in a given season. We've seen seasons where a person was here and for whatever reason shit happens and they finish the season there. We've seen people that have finished here, like the Green Bay Packers quarterback, and they finish here. You understand what I'm saying? And so you never know what these seasons and what these years and what these times finish up on, what they materialize to be. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, we've had the honor and the opportunity to have this man, G Money, be with us for an entire season and to give us such thorough and thought-provoking insights and perspectives and opinions. And I can tell you, I've known you for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But this was, of all that time, probably the greatest that we've had an opportunity to have together. And ladies and gentlemen, like all things, sometimes things come to an end.
Yeah.
And so I told y'all we had a big announcement to take place at the end of this show. And G Money has been provided an opportunity that he can't say no to. And as much as I would love him to be here, there's no way, shape, or form that I would ever not have him pursue this tremendous opportunity for him. And that's going to preclude him from being a part of this podcast and be a part of our lives on this show moving forward. But I would not ever have thought about or dreamed about launching this endeavor and doing with anybody else.
Yeah.
But you.
You know, the only thing that I want to really articulate to the audience, to everybody who's been following us, is this is certainly, let's say, a disheartening and sad reality. But you know, all of us have our proverbial day jobs, right?
Yep.
But the thing that I think that is the magic of this podcast that I think that will continue, and I hope that I would be a contributor in spirit to, is that we are going to speak the truth to the game, and we're going to speak truth to the nuances of the game, and that will absolutely continue. And then we are actually, and when I say we, I mean that in the full breath of it. We, because I'm with you, brother. I may not necessarily be on this, let's say visual anymore.
But you still be on the couch.
But I'll be on the couch arguing. I'm gonna be on the couch like, and say that. Hold on, because I'm gonna do that, because what I think is that this is something that is a movement.
You got to make that big money. You got to make that big money.
I got at least try to, right?
Without a doubt.
Church in Nalaweta. And so even though I will be gone, I will be here in spirit, and bang, bang, boom, man. You're gonna do this. BTA all day.
ATV.
Then that's how you know.
ATV.
Hey, all day.
We appreciate you, G Money. I truly appreciate you. I love you. I thank you for going on this journey with me, and I promise you, I wish you nothing but greatness and success moving forward.
Thank you, brother. And you know what? And the only thing that I want to just say as a parting gift, please believe it.
Church.
We are where it's at.
Love you, mama.